It's so fun playing with you, Jodi.
You too, Amanda. I can't wait till we can actually do this in person soon, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so. So welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Amanda Tosoff and I'm a jazz pianist from Toronto, Ontario. And this is the lovely Jodi Proznick.
Hello, I'm Jodi.
Vancouver.
Yes, I live actually in Port Coquitlam, BC, just a suburb of Vancouver. And I'm a bass player, and among other things. But yeah, this is my instrument.
And we are part of a trio called Music Arts Collective. Jodi, do you want to tell us a little bit about what Music Arts is for those of you guys who don't know yet?
Sure. Music Arts Collective is an organization. We're a trio of women who have come together to create an education hub, basically. And we're starting off with a number of webinars and some coursework happening in the wintertime, starting in January. But we were seeing a need for accessible, inclusive, affordable educational offerings around imaginative play and music. So we figured that now with what we've discovered over the pandemic, one of the gifts is that we can find people who are curious all over the world. And we've had students that have shown up in our life from more rural places and places that we would never get a chance to interact with because we don't live in the same city. And so through that discovery, we realized that, wow, we can actually kind of create community all over the world through online platforms. So we decided to give it a go, and here we are. So thank you to all of you who have joined us today, and please make sure you say hello, maybe even write in where you're from. That would be cool.
Yeah,
we have Fran, the third member of the trio, sort of logged on online, and she can be responding to any questions you have or anything you want to share with us. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so today we wanted to log on and give a little free taste of what we're going to talk about in a webinar that we're putting on next weekend on Sunday, October 4th. And it's a webinar called Rhythm is Our Business, and it's all about the rhythm section. So we have Jodi and myself and Ernesto Servini on drums and Mike Red on the guitar. And we're going to talk about the roles of these instruments and give you guys some concrete tips to take in, if you're a music teacher, to take into your ensembles. If you're a pianist, guitarist, drummer, or bass player, there's going to be lots of information for you guys. And just, yeah, talking about how to play in a rhythm section. So we're super, super excited about that. And so today we're going to give you guys a taste and hopefully entice some of you to join us next week, hopefully. So
just to let you know too, if you register online, we have a bit of a discount right now. So you just have to type in your name on our mailing list, and it'll pop up the nice little treat, discount treat. So yeah, so feel free to do that after we're done here.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, we're going to do 2 micro lessons. I think I'm going to start, and I'm going to talk a little bit about comping on the piano and give you guys a little bit of an exercise you guys can try to get more comfortable with comping. And then Jodi's going to talk about the bass and sound production and a whole bunch of awesome ideas there. So stick around if you guys can, and if you can't, the video will be up on our Music Arts Collective Facebook page, so please feel free to check it out later. So here we go. So if you don't know what comping is, it's basically accompaniment. So guitarists and pianists will provide the harmonic and rhythmic, in addition to the bass player, provide a harmonic and rhythmic foundation for soloists for any band. So comping is basically chords, rhythms, and accompaniment. And it's a really complicated thing, especially when you're first starting out. You need to know a lot of things. You need to know the song form, the melody, the harmonic progression. You need to know a bunch of rhythms, a bunch of voicings, so the different ways you might play a chord. Like a C minor chord could be like this, like this, like this, like this. There's a lot of different ways you can voice a chord, so you need to develop a repertoire of voicings and also a repertoire of rhythms that you can rely on. And so once you got those foundations, you can really start making music. So listen to as many compers as possible and steal those rhythms and those ideas, and see how they interact with soloists and in a band. But first steps, you got to get the basic ideas down. I know when I was first starting out, adjudicators and teachers would tell me to listen to my fellow bandmates, and it was a really hard thing to do because I was just trying to get the voicings down and play some interesting rhythms. So get those down first, and then you can get the music happening. So what I wanted to do with you guys really quickly today is walk you guys through some voicings that I've written out, and a little methodical way to practice this. And I'm just gonna add those to the mix here. Okay, so we'll zoom in as we go here because it's pretty small. But this is a little document. We put together some voicings and also some bass lines, and we actually posted it on our website under our freebie of the month. So every month we're putting up a free PDF, so you guys can go to our website and check that out and steal these voicings and an awesome bass line by Jodi that we'll show you later. And let's get started. So for those of you who might be just starting out with chords and voicings, these are fairly complex voicings if you're first just starting out. But basically in the webinar next week, I'm going to give everyone a chart and a really easy way to find all these chords. So today I'm not going to talk about that, but if any of this is really new, come to the webinar, we'll make it not so new then. So basically what we have here are some 4-note voicings. And the way that they're constructed is we have the 3rd and the 7 in the left hand, or sometimes the 7 and the 3 in the left hand. And in the right hand we have a color tone, so a 9th, which is a really beautiful note. And then we have the 5th on top. And so basically the structure of all of these chords are 3rds and 7s in the left hand, and then 5s and 9s or 5s and 9s or 9s and 13s. Again, we'll talk about this next week if you want to join us again. But essentially we're creating some really interesting rootless voicings. There's no C or F or B flat. We're leaving that to Jodi on the bass. So basically, I put together one set of voicings. So I always recommend to my students to actually write out a set of voicings and practice them to death, because that's how you get to know these inside and out. So you can notice just a couple things. I'm sticking to that structure of like a 9 and 5 in the left, and in the right, and a 3rd and 7 in my left hand. And I'm also trying to voice lead. So I'm making sure that my notes aren't jumping around. I'm really sticking close by and creating a nice pathway through the progression. Again, we'll talk about that more next week. So this set of voicings. Oop, that wasn't it. There we go. C minor 7. And of course the piano, you can have many ways you can voice things, bigger than that or smaller than that. So this is one set of voicings, and you can even flip them around later and rearrange the notes so you have 7, 3, 5, 9 on that first chord. So you can just flip them around and find a whole nother pathway later. So what I do with my students is I make them learn them in whole notes, or half notes if there's parts of the progression that are 2 chords per bar. So they got to know those first. Then one cool thing you can do is just start adding rhythms to every one of those chords to really get to know those chords and also the rhythms. So there's a couple of rhythms on the bottom of this page. It's the Charleston rhythm in different variations. And there's so many rhythms you can use, of course, and we'll talk about a whole bunch next week. But here's the first one, the C minor 9 here. We're going to count that 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. It's going to be long, short, and we're going to take that through the progression all the way through. So. that first rhythm, or you can do some of these variations. So the second rhythm here is just short. So da, 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 da. And you run that through the progression again. And you can do that with these other rhythms as well, which are just that same offset. So this one right here, this goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Sorry, let me do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1. 1. 1. 1. So it's the same rhythm, starting on a different beat. Same thing for that last example, it's just short, but it's starting on that same beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. Sorry, short. There we go. So you can run that through those little 1-bar rhythms throughout the whole piece, keeping in mind that some of the chords, some of the bars, there's 2 chords per bar. So you have to make sure you do this. So if I take these 2 bars right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice I have to change to the second chord for that second part of the rhythm. Or, so watch out for that. So now that's pretty straightforward. You can run those 1-bar rhythms or any rhythm that you want to work on. But the fun thing, one of the exercises I love to give to my students is to combine them in various ways. So the last thing I'm just going to show you guys, second to last thing, is I'm going to combine these rhythms to create a 2-bar rhythm to practice throughout the progression. So I'm going to do, perhaps I'll do that one, followed by this one. So I'm going to go da, da, do, da, da, da. So here we go. I'm going to put it in every 2 bars. Sorry, for every 2 bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 4, 1. 4, 1. 1. So now it's starting to sound like a little bit more like comping. So yeah, you can do this with any rhythm, but I highly, highly recommend writing out a set of voicings and really prepping what you're playing, not necessarily to play in a performance situation, but to practice it that way. Because I think that really having to think about what you're doing and then having to practice it a million times, it just gets in there. It's like trying to write out a sentence in French and memorize it and then try to use it. It's the same idea. So I highly recommend doing that. The last thing I want to say before we jump into some bass playing, I'm really excited about. Here's an example of a little etude I started. And so you can look at this in more detail later and go download it on our site. It's also up there. And basically what I've done is I've taken that Charleston rhythm. It's right there. It's right there. Okay, I added in a little bit of stuff there. It's also there. It's also there. It's also there. And there, and there. Okay, so basically this is just a whole bunch of variations of the Charleston, and I tried to make it as musical as I could. So let me play it for you, and what you guys can do later, if this seems like a good exercise that you want to try, you can try writing the rest using some of these similar rhythms, or other rhythms that you're working on. So here we go. I'll try to play it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. take those really plan out your voicings, really plan out your rhythms, work on it as an etude, do multiple etudes, and before you know it, you're gonna have all that stuff underneath your hands. Then you can listen to what's going on around you when you don't have to think about what you're doing and get, and that's a whole nother conversation that we'll talk about next week. But hopefully that gives you guys a few ideas to try. And again, if you're more advanced, you can take bigger voicings or more complicated voicings and more complicated rhythms and do the same basic idea. So that's it. That's it. So fun.
Hurrah, hooray.
Thanks, Jodi.
I love that so much.
Okay,
I love
yay.
it so much.
Awesome.
Couple of takeaways for me. First of all, the fact that you're using the Charleston pattern, just to contextualize it. Charleston was a dance in the swing era. The Charleston had this whole like movement. Charleston, ba 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 da da da. So ultimately, the thing that I want our friends out there to understand is that ultimately jazz at its core is dance music. It is meant to be rhythmic. It's meant to be it definitely has that connection to the dance. Now, it can stray way away from that, but a lot of the roots of the music are situated in that dance. So that's why rhythm, which often kind of gets pushed aside because it's a little more fun to talk about what notes to play, is vital, and how you articulate rhythm in time. I like to say it's where the joy lives in the music, right? It's totally, I'm noticing that my light is in the shot here. I'm moving it. Trying to get my bunker to look lit up. It's a little bit tricky. Anyway, so on that note, we're going to talk a little bit about the role of the bass on a tune like Autumn Leaves, in a swing tune. Generally speaking, traditionally, you would play quarter notes. And the quarter notes are super important and are pretty much everything in this music. And how you're lining them up and where you're placing them in time is vitally important to making the whole song totally bounce and be joyful. So what I want to talk about is how to do this on the bass. So instead of talking about what notes to play, I kind of want to talk about how to physically make your quarter notes buoyant and in time. And there's a couple of tricks I have for that. The first thing is you have to be subdividing inside. You have to have a certain kind of motor going inside. And anyone who's ever had me as an adjudicator knows that I get everybody up dancing. And the grid, I call it the grid that I want you to have internalized to help line up those quarter notes in time is on beat 1. So for in 4/4, you grunt, and then you say ba ba ba. So it's ba 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 ba. So as I'm playing, it could be a quarter, it could be just even like a major scale. Ba 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 ba. I'm adding a couple of chromatic notes in there to line up my major scale. But now that's a swing thing. Like if I'm playing a straight eighth groove, like on a Latin tune or a funk tune or a rock and roll tune, I wouldn't be thinking ooh ba ooh ba. I wouldn't be thinking that's sort of like an egg rolling or a bouncing ball. I would be thinking more of like a piston in a car. So chicken. I use chicken. So it's chicken 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 chicken, as opposed to ooh ba 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 ba. So that's one of the things that I can't overestimate. I can't overemphasize. Like honestly, if you're subdividing correctly within your own body, you will find that your notes line up very consistently. And also if the whole band is doing that, then whoo, look out, the quarter note becomes this like amazing, collective, bouncy, funky thing. But if we're not doing that, you're kind of approximating where you're putting those beats. So you really have to take charge of that for sure, internally. And actually, I get all my students to say it out loud. And you'll play your eighth notes better too. Or chicken chicken. that's the first thing I wanted to talk about, is that inner motor. And the second thing is actually physically playing the bass. So one of the interesting things about playing jazz bass in particular is that there's a certain technique to it that are the founders of the music, really, those Black American bass players that we know and love, the Jimmy Blantons, the Oscar Pettifords, the Ray Browns, the Milt Hintons, the Charles Mingus's. Go check them out. And what you'll notice is that how they're playing their quarter notes is really interesting physically on the instrument. And what they are doing, like kind of the secret ingredient, is that they're lining up this hand and this hand so that there's a certain point to their notes. So I'm coordinating these fingers and this finger and trying to get them so that they're right in the pocket together. So this is a timekeeper and this is a timekeeper. Right? So that gives you, I call them my heart-shaped quarter notes bouncing along. It has this lovely little point to it that will cut through all of the craziness. Sometimes you're playing with a big band and there's so much going on and you want those quarter notes to just poke at everybody, not just in the band, in the audience. I always say all the way, like across the Pacific to Japan. You want your quarter notes to just be bouncing along the world. In fact, one of the phrases I came up with my student Evan was like, we're wanting to change the world one quarter note at a time in swing music. And of course, when you go back and you listen to those greats, the Oscar Pettifords, the Ray Browns, the Jimmy Blantons, the Milt Hintons, the Paul Chambers, oh my gosh, love Paul Chambers. That's what they're doing, that joyful bounce. Go listen to the Basie Band. Go listen to Ellington. That joyful bounce that lives in those quarter notes. It's like the heartbeat. So there are technically things we can do to get that, but also that subdivision's super duper important. And last but not least, you have to know how important you are. Like, you can't just phone it in. You really have to be willing to have the energy and the, just the energy for that. And also understand that how much you can contribute to that feeling of buoyancy and joy in the band when you really lean into this. You know, it's kind of amazing. So that's the basic premise of playing those big fat quarter notes. In the webinar, we're going to talk a little bit more details about what notes to play, but I kind of tend to prioritize the sound production and then the rhythm or rhythm sound production, right? And then the notes you're playing. So if I just play random bass notes, with a big full fat sound, no one's really gonna care if I'm playing super outside because they still feel that beat, right? So don't over worry about the note choices. We'll get to like how to start playing good note choices. You can play one note, and if you're playing it in time with a big full sound and lots of point, then you know, everyone else is like, fantastic, feels great, and they can do their thing. And we're providing that foundation for the band that just helps them to feel relaxed, to feel energized and relaxed at the same time, and to just feel like we have their back harmonically, because we're playing the roots and fifths that the piano player is not playing, but also with that energy, that buoyant energy that has that internal spin between each quarter note. So those are our priorities, my friends. We're going to talk a lot more about not only doing that in our instrument, but then how we get our satellite dishes out to listen to the rhythm section and to try and, again, connect with all those beautiful humans we're playing with. So that is it. I think that Amanda's going to Amanda, are you still there? Because all I can see is myself in the camera.
I'm back.
There you are. Hi. I was like, whoa, you went away all of a sudden. And I was shocked. I was like, oh, okay, so just me and the screen. That's cool. So I was talking to myself.
Sorry, Jodi. I
That's
want
right.
people to see your bass.
Of course.
As close as possible.
Of course. So I just wanted to say maybe you can share the bass line that I wrote out as part of the freebie,
Yes.
because we do need to pay attention to the notes, obviously. So I have a 3-step choose your own adventure, just like Amanda does with step 1, learn your voicing, step 2, learn the Charleston rhythm, step 3, put a variation on the Charleston rhythm. Beautiful. It's a similar thing with bass lines, where step 1 is be able to play the root. Step 2 is know where your 5th is against that root of each chord. Step 3 is adding, I use chromatic approach tones, which are more complicated to describe harmonically, like in terms of why they work, but in terms of your hand position, they work really, really well to give you a little bit more to do in your bass lines. And then diatonic approaches. And then you basically choose your own adventure, like Amanda did with, that Charleston pattern. Just reimagined, starting on different beats, gives you a world of information. And it's the same thing with this sort of 3-step bassline construction, choose your own adventure pattern. It gives you the world of information that will serve you 99% of the time, and you can get into your playing very easily and quickly, that you can then show up anywhere and have something to say, which is the ultimate thing. We just want to be able to feel empowered to walk on the bandstand and be able to navigate whatever comes our way. So that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like I mentioned earlier, everybody, all these handouts that we're sharing right now are on our site. So if you go to our goodies page, we've got a freebie of the month that we're putting out, and it's last month was a reharmonization of What Is This Thing Called Love, and this month is for some bass players and some piano players to sink into some of this stuff that we talked about today. So you can go get that for free. Yeah, what else, Jodi? I think that's kind of it.
That's kind of it for today, yeah.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll just put the, Can you actually still hear me?
I can still hear you, but everything's frozen on my side. Oh, hi, I can see myself now. Hey, everybody. Maybe it's just me. I don't know what's happened to Amanda. So, we have so the webinar, which is also involving Ernesto and Mike, 2 Juno Award-winning, brilliant people and pedagogues and beautiful guys. So I really hope you guys can come and join us at the webinar next Sunday. It's at, I think it's at 2 p.m. No, 12:30 Pacific time. And so here's the little the thing I wanted to talk about that is that we have an amazing group, and many of us do adjudicating. And of course, with the pandemic, there's not going to be a whole lot of festivals happening. There's not going to be a whole lot of opportunity to come and hang out and get clinics with musicians in the same way. So we figured we'd create a little clinic for you. So if you're a music teacher, you can join us at the webinar, and even if you can't, you'll get access to the video, and then you could actually share it with your students. So if you have a new rhythm section and you're learning rhythm section concepts, that's a good plan for that. And maybe you're just curious about how jazz rhythm sections work and fit together, and maybe some tips for jazz drumming, jazz guitar, jazz piano. So super excited to do that. And I still can't see Amanda here, so I'm not sure what's happening because she's actually hosting this whole thing. So maybe we will let it go. I just got a text that said her Amanda completely froze. Oh, aren't we just all in the middle of insane, absolutely insane technical stuff? But I managed to, I don't think I'm as fuzzy as I have been the past 2 weeks. So we are work in progress. And I'm sure all of you can really relate to that right now. Amanda's trying to log in. So yes, I'm just going to keep talking until she does. I'm just going to keep talking. We're still waiting for her. Yeah. All right, this is where the improvisation skills come in. Well, because she has to be the one to log off here. So, yeah. Oh, still no Amanda. Anyway, so rhythm section. We'll also talk about some of our favorite rhythm sections that everybody should check out. And everyone will be creating a little PDF handout. So that's also helpful. So you'll have a PDF handout that you can actually give to your students that kind of goes through a lot of the key things that we are figuring out. So I think I'm actually going to log off because we only wanted to make this about half an hour, and I will say goodbye to everybody. I can't see very much except myself in the computer. I love this. This is totally classic. This is classic Jodi. All right, my friends. I'm going to remove myself from the stream, and I wish you all a lovely, gorgeous day. Oh, there she is! Yay! All right. Did you want to sign off, Amanda? Oh, she's just working it now. I can't hear you, sweetie. We can't hear you.
I'm muting myself.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties, but luckily we got through some awesome information before. Hopefully you heard everything that Jodi had to say.
Yay. Okay. Fantastic. All right, Amanda, shall we log off?
Yep, having a little bit of issues with my sound, but this is a perfect opportunity to log off. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of the weekend. That was so much fun, Jodi.
Bye.
We'll see you soon.